All right, so good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending today's Open Research Office on the new QI self-assessment tool. Marchelle and I are clinical research facilitators with the Clinical and Translational Science Institute in the Clinical Research Office. We work to help researchers who plan human research projects move smoothly through the process. Often this involves answering questions about what materials need to be submitted for IRB approval, but it can include a wide range of questions about any aspect of human research. I kind of see us as a concierge for human research. If you have questions that you aren't sure of who to ask for the answers, come to us. We will sometimes provide the answers, and if not, we can identify the experts and put you in touch with them. We also actively seek out experts to provide education in the form of these open research office sessions and the short educational video modules that you can find on the CTSI website. So during today's session, if you have any questions about using the self-assessment tool or need clarifications, please let us know. We'll open for questions after I go over the differences between QI and research, and again after Marchelle discusses the QI self-assessment tool. Now, if you have specific questions regarding your own QI project that you're planning, we encourage you to reach out to us by email or call the number that we'll be sharing at the end of the session. Today, I'll start off by going over the difference between quality improvement and research, overlap between the two, and the UB guidance on quality assurance and quality improvement projects document. Then Marchelle will walk us through the online QA/QI self-assessment tool. Oops. QI are the systematic and continuous actions leading to measurable improvement in the services and status of a targeted group within a particular institution. QI is a methodology designed to improve the quality of a service, a program, or a process. Importantly, there is a major emphasis on ensuring the needs and expectations of patients and their community is met. Alternatively, research is a systematic investigation, including research development, testing, and evaluation, designed to develop or contribute to generalizable knowledge. To emphasize the important differences between QI and research, in quality improvement, the goal is to make sure that those being served, patients, students, clients, are receiving the most beneficial experience using tools or programs that have a proven record of success. The project lead's only goal is improving the experience of those involved in the project. Alternatively, in human research, the goal is to learn new information, contributing to generalizable knowledge that can benefit society at large. Now, of course, researchers want to make sure that human subjects are protected, but the goal of the research endeavor is gaining generalizable knowledge. So human research must be reviewed and approved by the IRB. One of the main goals of the IRB is to ensure that the rights and welfare of subjects are protected. So this means that the IRB review and approval allows the researcher to focus on the goal of gaining generalizable knowledge, while the IRB makes sure that the research team has taken all necessary steps to protect the human subjects involved in that research. While there's often a clear line between research and QI, sometimes they overlap. Only projects that solely fit the category of QI will not require IRB review. If you propose a QI project but include elements of research in it, it must be submitted to the IRB for their determination. So for example, if a project involves an untested clinical intervention, your goal may be improving the quality of care, but also collecting information about patient outcomes to gain scientific evidence on how well the intervention achieves its intended results. So in that example, your QI project is also research. Collaborative or multi-site QI can often cross the boundary into QI that is also research. Now, there may be a multi-site QI project in which all the sites are trying to improve some aspect of clinical care. All sites decide that the process will improve care and implement the process. They collect the data during the implementation and also analyze the data. Because this project is done at multiple sites, it's likely going to be generalizable, it's likely going to yield generalizable knowledge and will probably require IRB review. So the overlap between QI and research can sometimes develop during the process of the project. For example, let's say that a school began a student-to-student tutoring program to help improve academic performance of both the tutors and the tutees. They gathered grades and other academic data over several semesters that suggested that the program was successful. They think that this program will be useful to other schools, so they go back to the academic data to systematically analyze and generalize the outcomes and results. In this example, the school began a QI project, but once they decided to analyze the data and generalize it to share the results, it became research too. The analysis of the data would need to be submitted to the IRB for review and determination. Under these circumstances, the school could still continue the tutoring program as QI while awaiting the IRB determination for the research, but they cannot analyze the data until they have received the IRB approval. This is a case where the project began as QI, but then became QI and research. However, if the school began the program as a QI to improve academic performance and wanted to prove that this was an effective method to improve test scores at the same time, the project is starting as both QI and research. So it would require IRB approval from the start. Now, this is an area that we encourage researchers to be completely honest with themselves about what they hope to gain when planning a QI project. It's very important to pay attention to the ultimate goal of your QI project. If you have the intention of generalizing the data, it is important to approach it as research and submit it to the IRB for their determination. As a different example of the overlap in QI and research, an emergency department begins a new untested method of triage assessment that they believe will improve patient care. They also want to collect data to determine how effective the new method is. In this example, the use of an untested method puts this in the realm of research too. So while they may believe that the method will improve patient care, they don't have the scientific backing to support that before they start. Their project would provide the data about whether patient care improves following the novel assessment method. So it requires IRB review and determination. As with the first example, project leads should look over their planned QI projects, making sure that they're backed by proven methods and pay close attention to the goals they have for engaging in the project. The UB guidance on QA and QA/QI projects document has information that can keep you on track and understanding if your project is QI or falls into the gray area of QI that's also research. The document was created with input from the UB Clinical Research Office, the UB Office of Research Compliance, and individuals from ECMC and Kaleida Health. It should be read before completing the self-determination survey. I recommend downloading a copy and read it for your own reference, keep it for your own reference, and read it as needed. It's found on the first page of the survey that is redcap.link/UB-QI-determination. The document defines terms, some of which we've already gone over today, like research, quality assurance, and quality improvement. And it also gives side-by-side comparisons to better explain the differences between research and QA/QI. And it provides guidance to prevent non-compliance with human subjects research regulations. So there's a decision tree to help you quickly see if your project is likely a QA/QI project. Some of the items on the decision tree are very similar to the questions that are asked in the self-assessment tool, and Marchelle will be discussing that in a few moments. The guidance document also includes a map of the steps to take after you've completed the QA/QI self-assessment tool. All right, so before I pass the session over to Marchelle, I just wanted to check and see if anyone has any questions so far. I know that I went through a lot of information, so I'm going to stop sharing. And if anyone has any questions, you can just speak up. Okay. Well, then thank you. And Marchelle, you can continue on for us.
Alexia, can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
So if a project involves plan, do, act, those use typical QA research methodology,
Mm-hmm.
does that automatically fall into QI or not?
I mean, not necessarily. It likely would, but it just depends on, what your purpose is and whether you're going to be meeting other criteria that would put it into the realm of research. Like plan, do, act. Let's say you were doing a multi-site plan, do, act. You would probably want to still submit that to the IRB just because what you find may be generalizable. I do know that with the process of plan, do, act, there's a lot of, there's changes that can happen in there that may not, so you may not analyze data in the same way. But there's still the chance that it may fit into the category of research as well. It would probably still be your QI project, but there's a possibility that it would be research.
So the other question is, our doctor, they plan to do a QI project, maybe just one single site, but ultimate goal, they wanted to publish in the journal. Will that make that project be a research publication? When a lot of time when you try to submit for publication, the journal will ask you, do you have IRB approval?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't, they won't publish.
Exactly.
So even though it's a pure QI project, you still wanted to have IRB approval submitted, is that right?
So, all right. So that's the area where I had said you really have to take a serious look at what your ultimate plans are for it. So you're doing a QI project, but are you thinking, I'm doing this QI project, but I'm thinking that this may be generalizable. I'm thinking that this will be something that, we'll be able to share with the public at large, not just showing as something that is institutionally important, but something that is community or countrywide or that could be useful for many sites. That's where the issue comes up that you would want to make sure that it was submitted to the IRB. So if you're just doing a QI and listen, I'm wanting to publish this, but I only want to publish it in a QI specific journal, like it's just going to be about what happened at our own institution, then it would probably still fit into QI. But if you're thinking this is going to be something that's going to be widely useful for other institutions, then you probably would want to submit that to the IRB.
Okay, so we're submitting everything to IRB regardless. Yeah, research working because sometimes we decide it's QI, but IRB decides it's research. It happened before. So we just do on the safe side. We submit everything to IRB. And then you guys.
The publication part is where a lot of times we haven't had this survey up very long, but the questions that we've gotten so far, I think, have been exclusively regarding publication, because that is definitely an area where it can end up being pretty gray, and you'll want to make sure that you're thinking about what is the purpose of my publication. Like, am I going to be presenting this as research? Because if you're going to end up presenting your results as research results, it definitely needs to go through the IRB.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? All right, now I'll pass it on to you, Marchelle.
Can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
You can see the presentation, right? Okay. So now I'm going to be discussing the QA/QI self-assessment tool. So as we go through the following slides, there will be screenshots of the process of the tool. I'm not going to read each question. However, you'll be able to see it, and I'll be providing important information for you to know when completing the survey. Just like Alexis's part, I'm going to ask that you hold all questions till the end. So to begin, the guidance document is available on the first page of the survey. The second page of the self-assessment tool has important instructions for completing the survey, like making sure that you include a detailed description of your planned QA/QI project when requested. The information you submit in this tool could be issued to individuals providing data for the project or others verifying that the project is in fact QA/QI. Therefore, you should make it clear what will take place in the project. It should contain enough detail to easily link the survey with your project, and projects taking place at an ECMC facility have to have approval by the ECMC Corporation Research Committee. Project leads have to contact the representatives listed in the survey in order to begin that process. Once you begin the self-assessment tool, most questions are a yes or no. And I did get a phone call the other day, so I do just want to mention, as Alexis went over that flow chart, that's going to be the first thing you see, but you will need to hit next and move on to fill in the questions that it's asking. So once you begin this self-assessment tool, most questions are a yes or no. But as previously mentioned, that first page should include the detailed information requested in the instructions. You will include your name as project leader and the email address that you would like your self-determination certificate sent to. Make sure that the project title matches the official name you plan to use for the QI project. The last two questions that ask to describe the intent, purpose of your project, to describe the steps that will be taken to complete the project, and the brief description of project goals should be heavily detailed. On this page, you will indicate where the project will be conducted. If it is Kaleida or ECMC, a follow-up page will request the facility at which the project is being planned. So after providing that information about your project, you will answer these 6 questions that we're going to go over that will determine if you can proceed with your QA/QI project immediately or if further action is required. So these are questions 1 and 2. Regarding question number 1, if the project involves testing or evaluating drugs, devices, or biologics, federal regulations beyond the common rule, like FDA regulations, need to be applied to the project. So IRB review is always required. Regarding question number 2, If a project has external funding from an agency or an organization that indicates the funder's views, the project as human subjects research, the project must be submitted for IRB review and determination. If you have a funded project and are unsure if the funder considers it human subjects research, you should contact that program officer for the funding to learn if the funding source requires IRB review. Question number 3 addresses multi-site projects. So collaborative or multi-site projects are often generalizable. So it is less likely that the outcomes will be used solely for quality improvement or program evaluation at that local institution. It is important for the project lead to be aware of the entire protocol and all project aims. Sometimes there will be research aims among the QI aims. Multi-site projects will very likely require IRB review and approval. However, if a project lead is working with a community partner on a local QI program evaluation project, a not research determination may still be applicable, but it will require the more in-depth review of the IRB. Regarding question number 4, if you conduct a project using systematic research methodologies with strong external validity to obtain reproducible results, then it is research and it will require IRB review. Question number 5. If a project lead has plans to disseminate results outside of the institution at the outset of the project, they should be sure to evaluate why they think wide dissemination would be appropriate. Lack of plans to disseminate results outside of the institution is often a sign that the project is not research. If the project lead has plans to disseminate results, is that because the results are generalizable? If that is the case, the project requires IRB submission. However, if a project lead plans to publish, present, or disseminate results specific to the institution, not generalizable results, they can contact Alexis or I for additional guidance. For question number 6, it's important to remember that the purpose of a QA/QI project is always to improve or evaluate a specific practice or program, so that if that is not your intention, IRB review and determination will be required. So after you answered those 6 questions, immediately after advancing from the survey, the self-certification results will display. Everyone whose project does not appear to be QA/QI will see the first page, telling them that IRB review is likely required and that they can submit to the IRB, contact Alexis or I, or review the guidance document again. The following page provides the project lead specific guidance based on the reason that their project does not seem to meet criteria to be classified as QA/QI. If any of the reasons that the project does not meet the criteria for QA/QI indicates that IRB review is needed, the project cannot be classified as QA/QI. This is followed by a page that displays the answers the project lead provided on the survey, and once they advance to the last page of the survey, an email will be sent to them. This is an example of what will be sent. The email is useful because a PDF of the survey you just completed is attached. It includes all the information you inputted, and it will also include information about why the project is not considered QA/QI and the next recommended steps. If the project lead needs to contact Alexis or I for assistance, you'll be able to share this document with us when you put in a request for guidance. Once the self-certification results are displayed, everyone whose project does meet the criteria to be QA/QI will see this page, telling them that IRB review is not required because the project would not constitute research under the common rule. It also instructs the project lead to print the copy of the survey on the later page for their records. However, the survey will be emailed as well. There is an additional reminder to not refer to the project as research if published in the future, and to use the self-assessment tool again if the project changes in significant ways. The self-determination certificate is displayed on the following page. The project lead can choose not to receive this as an email by unchecking the box at the bottom of the screen right here. Regardless of whether you choose to receive the certificate by email, the PDF that we just spoke of the survey will always be emailed to you. The certificate will include the project lead's name, name of the project, the location at which the project will occur, and when the project was registered. It lists the characteristics that define this as a QA/QI project, and like the previous page, reminds the project lead of their responsibility to ensure that the information about the project is accurate and re-register using the self-determination tool to make sure the project is still in fact QA/QI in case anything changes. For additional resources, the Click Library has a wide range of educational tip sheets and worksheets available to help researchers. The HRP 310 is the Human Research Determination Worksheet. It defines some key terms used to discuss whether a project is in fact research. So along with the other materials discussed today, the HRP 310 is a good resource to help you know what QI is and what is research. As discussed earlier, the UB guidance on QA and QI projects is designed to give a clear picture of what constitutes a QA and QI project. It is found on the first page of the self-determination tool we just went over. And lastly, the Health and Human Service Office of Human Rights Protection has published a frequently asked question website on the topic of QI. And lastly, now we will take any questions. If you have questions specifically about designing a QA/QI project, you can reach out to the UB IRB helpline. But I do want to preface that they will not determine if your project is QI during a phone call or by email, but they can provide you information about the development of a project. If you have questions about the QA/QI survey I just went over, you can feel free to reach out to either myself or Alexis by reaching us at the email on the screen. Now, as we open up for questions, I do want to preface to not ask study specific questions. If you're wondering if your specific study is QA/QI, those questions are best asked through email and a phone call. Right now, we're opening up for general questions, maybe about the tool we just went over or anything else that Alexis addressed today.
Hi, I have two questions. One is specifically about the tool. Is the thinking about QI applying only to medical settings? So if we're evaluating a program in another community organization or group, I didn't see on the list of like options to say where the project was occurring any options other than clinical. So is this only supposed to be for like practice-based or medical setting-based projects?
I can feel this. It doesn't have to be. You would consider it then UB. If you're,
Okay.
because you'd be running it through UB. You wouldn't be running it through Kaleida, like a Kaleida Health facility. You'd be running it as a
Okay.
representative
Okay.
of UB.
And then my other question is about student projects. So we have a lot of students doing a project for a thesis where they're collecting data, but it's often tied to a specific clinic setting or location, but it may involve surveys or chart review. I would say in most of the cases, the dissemination doesn't go beyond sharing it, for the final presentation of their thesis and writing up their thesis. Where do those fall in this? Is that research or is that more of the QI? Should they be using this tool?
They can use the tool and see, like if what they're doing is an analysis for generalizable data, that even if they're not planning on publishing it, if they're doing an analysis for generalizable data, then it would be then that would be considered research. A chart reviews will have to go through CSR and the IRB anyway, just because there's certain restrictions as far as doing chart reviews. But students can use the tool as well if they're planning a QI project.
Okay. Thank you.
And as I put in the chat, I will be sharing a copy of the slides in a PDF form. I'll be sending out an email later on today that will include a post survey that we ask you guys to complete. It will only take about 5 minutes, but I will be including the slides in that as well.
Great, thank you.
I have a question. If you started off a QI project, but now you want to turn it into a research project, what do you submit from the beginning to the IRB, or like what pieces of information do you submit from there on?
So if you've already begun a QI, you went through the self-assessment tool, or you already had a QI project that you were running, and then you realized this could be useful and generalizable, like the example I gave of the school, then you would submit to the IRB. So you would indicate that you have a QI project that you've been running, and now you think that this data would be useful and that you want to use data from your QI project for your research. So you would just submit that as already existing data that you would want to be using for the upcoming research.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Do we have any other questions? All right, I'm going to go with a no. So if everyone has asked their questions.
Stevie, did you want to say something?
But yeah, I had a more
hand.
general question. I'm just wondering, is there a flow chart or anything anywhere for people to see, like if you have human subjects research, you go to CSR. If you have a chart review, you go to CSR. If you have QA, QI, you go to the study tool. If you have, you're going for non-exempt, you go here. Is there anything at a university level that would guide researchers on like where the next step is based on the type of project they have?
There isn't specifically something along those lines. We could look into putting something together, although I don't know how complicated that would be, but most any human subjects research would go through CSR first. In fact, most of the time, even if we just suggest putting it through CSR just because we can help you to get started in the IRB anyway. Exempt studies that you expect are not going to be or are going to be exempt, you can just put directly into the IRB, but sometimes they say no, that won't be exempt, and then they send you back to CSR. So but if it starts in CSR, it will go into the IRB. But I will write down a note though to see about kind of creating a tool for next steps, because I know that a lot of people aren't sure where to start.
Yeah, there's a couple of different ones, like on our website that explains CSR, and click IRB. It does let you know if it's one of the 5 health sciences schools and it's human subjects research, go ahead and put it into CSR. So that kind of covers some of the schools. But then how Alexis showed the other flow chart for QA, QI, there's just a couple of different forms. There's not one complete form. So it is kind of, you got to look for it a little, but that would be a good idea to have them all in one form so you could find out what to do first.
It could be helpful for new hires or new faculty coming in and trying to navigate the systems. I mean, there's so many different systems where you go. If there was a, tool sheet by school or something like that might be helpful.
Definitely. Thank you for that suggestion.
Do you see any more hands up? Because I didn't see that one. Okay.
No, nothing else.
So if we have no more questions, today's recording will be posted on our YouTube within a few days once closed captions are added. And then today I will be sending out that post survey email. I'm going to ask that you all complete it as soon as you're available, and that will include today's slides as well. So thanks for attending.